in my 40s, I was maybe about 45. I went and did something called Landmark Forum, Landmark Education. Some people may be familiar with it. And it was a life-changing moment for me. And there's 150 people in the room doing a 3-day seminar, and I was still suffering, not physically. I was suffering emotionally and psychologically. And so I'd heard about this thing. So I went off there, and you give them the list of intentions that you're wanting to get from this program. And I had no idea what I was going to. And so I remember there was an opportunity to get up in front of everybody on the stage with the coach. They're not psychologists, they're coaches. I'm actually a coach now. And the reason I'm a coach now is some of what I got from this experience. So I remember getting up on the stage, and the guy, his name was Paul. Paul said, "Peter, what are you up here for? You know, what's the source of your suffering?" And I remember saying, "Oh, I'm here because my dad abused me." And he said, "Rubbish. That never happened." And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was with someone who understood me, but I didn't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, he goes, "Rubbish, that never happened."
You didn't react with,
No.
how dare you?
No, I was like curious as all hell. I'm like,
Why would he say that?
yeah, like, and I can't, there's nowhere to run. I'm already up there in front of 150 people. He goes, "That's a story. Your abuse is a story."
What do you think about it now?
He was right.
In what way?
So he drew two circles on the board in front of everybody. He said, "What happened?" I said, "I just told you my dad abused me." He goes, "No, that's a story. What actually happened? Give me the data. I want facts. What happened?" I said, "Well, my dad belted me several times a week for 10 years. So he wrote that in the first circle." He goes, "Yep." He goes, I accept that. That's data. That's factual. If we had a camera, we could film that, and we would still have that film. That did happen." And then above the other circle, he wrote, "What did you make that mean?" I said, "I made that mean that my dad didn't love me." And when I saw that, I'm like, "Oh." And so he said, "Which side of the board is the suffering?" And I saw straight away, as a 45-year-old man, I'm still walking around with the story that my dad didn't love me.
Mm.
That was where my suffering was.
Yes.
As Gabor Mate says,
Yes.
your trauma's not what happened to you, it's what's going on inside of you now because of what happened.
Yes.
Dad stopped hitting me 30 years prior to that.
That's right. The event has stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where my suffering was in my story,
Yes.
that my dad didn't love me.
Damaged good, inadequate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he said, "There's only one person who knows if your dad loves you or not. Who's that?" I said, "My dad." He goes, "That's right. He's the only one who can tell you." He says, "Have you ever asked him?" I said, "No, I haven't." He goes, "Have you got your phone on you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, call him." I'm like, "Now?" "Yeah." In front of everybody. "Yeah.
Wow.
Call your dad. Ask him." So I call my dad. He picks up.
In front of everyone.
Yeah. I call him and I say, "Dad, do you love me?" "Have you been drinking, son?" was the first thing he said.
Yeah.
I said, "No, Dad, I'm doing a seminar." He goes, "Of course I love you, son. I've always loved you." And, that's when I said, "Well, what were all the beltings about?" He goes, "Son, I know that was not the right thing to do, but that was the way I was raised, and that's the way I was taught, and I thought I was doing the right thing. And I'm sorry that was I shouldn't have done that, but I've always loved you.
Mm.
Thank you, Dad." And I got off the phone. And then he said, "Who told you your dad didn't love you?" I said, "Nobody." I said, "I made that up." He goes, "That's right." He goes, "You made up a story that your dad didn't love you, and now you know it's not true. And it's your story, and it's causing you suffering. What do you want to do with it?"
And in that moment?
In that moment, a light bulb went off, and I realized that all my suffering was in the story that I made up about what happened to me. And it was my story. I could do what I want with it.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I dropped that story that my dad didn't love me, and I dropped the story that I was abused, and I dropped the story that I was damaged goods.
Which is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a remarkable thing because it's so easy to see the pathway in which we will go. Every time the belt hit me, I'm feeling like I'm totally in the wrong, done something wrong, or just
What's wrong with
me as me is just inadequate, not
Yeah.
good enough. And we carry that story and we go with that story. But that was definitely not the intention from Dad.
Yeah.